Moi. Being months that I'm waiting to publish this video, I will not lose any time presenting it or introducing its topics. In the first part of this episode, called Buried Cities Enigma, I have picked up the last card, and I have let life guiding me to start from the end. But now I will choose the card. Let's talk about glaciers. For what I understood, they are telling us that the areas of the North Atlantic Ocean, Iceland, Greenland, north of Scandinavia and Finland, were covered in ice until the last cold period of the Ice Age, that, as we can read on the screen, ended some 10,000 years ago, and our warm period of the Ice Age started. Talking about Iceland, for example, the ice started to melt some 15,000 years ago, and some part of Iceland was without ice some 13,000 years ago. Some 9,000 years ago, the big glacier was fully melted, and Iceland was without glacier until some 2,500 years ago, when glaciers started to form on highest mountains. So it is clearly written that the glacier in this particular area of the Arctic Circle started forming again 2,500 years ago, and they slowly reach the monstrous sizes that we can appreciate, for example, in this cartographical work from 1859, made by the cartographer Tonsberg. In very recent time, due to the so-called global warming, the glaciers started to melt in an alarming rate. Really, being a cold, snowy November day in beautiful Finland, the situation became almost hilarious. So, being already on the path, and due to the appropriate name for the topic concerning this investigation, let's start with the country of Iceland. On the screen at this moment, we can appreciate a map of our day's Icelandic lands, with its impressive glaciers. By the way, they are 13, if we count only the largest one. And the next few pictures that I personally took are showing how they look in a warm morning on a month of May this year. Their beauty is absolutely hypnotic and unforgettable. The images on the screen are of the largest one, named Vatnajökull. The Icelandic word for glacier is jökull. So let's start to put some order in this information about what I personally think is the most incredible place I've ever been. So they are telling us that those natural wonders were reforming themselves for the last 2,500 years. But do you remember the map made by the Swedish ecclesiastic Olaus Magnus in 1539 that I have presented to you in the first part of this video? Well, here we have it again on the screen, and as we can observe, there are no sign of glacier nowhere to be seen. But this cartographical work is not 3,000 or 4,000 years old. So where are the glaciers? Wikipedia have the answer. He was misconcepted, or let's say confused. Fine, mystery solved. Really. So let's go clear our minds on this topic straight to the place where all of the experts in history take their knowledge from. The geographical work that I will present you in the next few minutes come straight from the National and University Library of Iceland. The first map that I choose to present you is a magnificent work made by the cartographer Sebastian Munster in the second half of the 1500s. And as we can observe, in the areas where the biggest glaciers lie in our days, there is depicted a lake and two rivers that flow toward the ocean. There is no sign of ice nowhere to be seen. But of course, At that time the cartographers were primitive and confused, so we will find mistakes here and there in depicting lands. Fine, let's try with another geographer. The next map that I will present you is a 1548 work made by Hieronymus Gourmont, and again we can appreciate the same situation. Not only in the southeast part of the island there are no sign of glaciers, but instead lakes and rivers, but there is no sign of ice nowhere on the entire land. Instead, where in our days lies all of that ice mass, we can clearly see depicted forests, town, tents, people in short pants or almost naked. And the only ice present on the map is in the ocean on the east side of the island. But examining it closer, the lines that compose it are nowhere else on the map, and also the strange way that it is painted, kind of in two dimensions, is different than the rest of the map. But we will examine that ice later in other maps. For the moment, let's investigate those towns that I can assure you in our days are not there. On the screen we can see a page of a book written by Benedetto Bordone in 1547 about Iceland. And in the last two lines it is clearly written that Iceland è la più remota che a notitia puenuta ci sia, la quale è bene abitata e ha molte città, è isola motuosa con molti fiumi. I will translate for you these quotes. Iceland is the most remote that we have knowledge of. It is largely inhabited and has a lot of cities. A lot of cities? It's an island with a lot of mountains and rivers. In the second part of the page, he quotes that the island has the longest day of 3 months and a night of similar length, even giving us the dates of begin and end of it, clearly referring to the summer and winter length of the day. So there is no doubt that he is talking about Iceland. He even put a map at the bottom of the page. But this particular work cannot help us much to understand if there's ice, due to the fact that it is a pretty basic and simple work, but clearly show us those cities. If we move just 2 decades further in time, though, we have this cartographical work made by Ferrando Bertelli in 1566. Let's start looking at the illustration on the top left part of the map. The date is I 566. That's an I, not a 1. There's even a dot on top of the letter I, representing the time after Jesus Christ, as I have shown you in the previous episode called Staged Century. But what is concerning the topic of this research is the map itself. And as you can see, on this really spectacular work, there are no sign of glacier nowhere to be seen, except for those kind of pieces of ice depicted in the ocean that, first of all, are not in the east side of the island where the Mare Congelatum lies, and second of all, they look completely out of place on the map. The color is different, the way of painting is different. Actually, to me, they look added to the map by someone else. But we will examine this phenomenon later on. For the moment, let's look for glaciers. To start, there are painted forests everywhere, and in those areas I can assure you that there are no trees at all. Second of all, there are depicted lakes and rivers. There is no doubt that those are large bodies of water and not glacier. There are boats depicted in it. Moving to the middle of this amazing map, We can appreciate a volcano under eruption, some villages, a large city, some tents, and plenty of forest. But if we move our research just a bit lower, we can learn that it's the country of Iceland. It is clearly written Islanda. There's no doubt about it. But my question is, what are those buildings beside the largest city on the island? They are very peculiar. Do you remember in the first part of this video when I've shown you the same strange structures but in the southwest of Finland depicted on the map of Olaus Magnus? They really look the same. What are they? And also in this other map found in Italy from the same period in history, it gives us the same exact details. There are no glaciers on the island. I will never accept the idea that those brilliant cartographers were, as Wikipedia tells us, misconcepted. It's an insult to the knowledge of our ancestors. I'm starting to be really annoyed of the so-called historians telling us what is real or misconception. When something doesn't fit in their manipulated point of view, it's not there, or it's phantom, or simply we are too ignorant to understand it. I have a message to all of the historians. Start reading the comments posted under my video, and you will learn that they are written by brilliant minds and pure-hearted people. I'm sorry, I really hope not to offend anyone, but what I'm presenting you is staggering. Look at the next cartographical work made by Girolamo Porro in 1572. Where are the glaciers? And again, look at the ice depicted in the ocean. To me, it is clearly added to the map. It is completely different than the rest of the work. The color is different. The way of painting is different. To me, it looked like that they want us to think that there's ice in the sea. But I can be mistaken. The next work is a 1601 map of Iceland made by the geographer Johannes Vriens. I cannot continue repeating the same questions. What are all of those cities? There's ice in those areas in our days. Where are the glaciers? Next one, from 1616, made by Petrus Bertius and Jodocus Ondius. Look at the quantity of cities and towns depicted all over the island, and in particular where the glacier lies in our days. All of these maps come from the National and University Library of Iceland, not from some comic book. The next illustration comes from a book written by Alain Manesson Mallet in 1683, and as you can appreciate, there are no sign of ice nowhere to be seen. It is actually painted very green. In the next few minutes, I will let you enjoy some cartographical work made by very respected geographer and cartographer representing this very strange and out-of-place ice in the ocean. By the way, in many cases, repeating the same drawing over and over. And of course, no glaciers. It's up to you to come out with an opinion about what I call false ice. Please let me know in the comments what you think about it. It is really made by the same person that create the map. I can continue forever showing you maps of Iceland depicted completely out of ice. But I think that at this point it's pretty obvious that something very fishy is going on with the official version of history presented to us. So I will show you some other question that I have about this amazing island located in the North Atlantic Ocean. In these two images you can appreciate some very strange mountains, and I don't think that I have to say what they look to me, because they are really out of place, but I will let you take your own opinion. Second of all, can you see these strange thin islands, or whatever they are? They keep going on for kilometer and kilometer, and if you follow them, they have this strange opening between them. What a nice natural protection for boats. Are they natural? Because I have lived for over a decade in volcanic islands in the Atlantic Ocean, and this is the only place where I've seen them. And they are located exactly where there are cities depicted in the old maps. But they can be natural, and it can be just a coincidence. By the way, on the screen you can see some pictures that show how they look like, and I've been walking on them. They are made of very small stones, and what is also very interesting is that in one of them there are some ruins called Papos. If somebody knows what is there, can you please write it on the comment or send me some pictures? Because when I was there, I couldn't find any way to get there. Papos is located in one of these islands in the southeast, between the city of Ofn and Djúpivogur, right after a tunnel. Third question. Can you see the mountain on the left side of the images? If we close up to it, some strange lines are visible. They look like old fields, and they go on and on in the south of the island. How old are they? Because they look very similar, if not identical, to these fields found in enormous quantity in Canary Island, in particular on the island of La Gomera, one of my homes. But the one in Iceland, in some areas, they are appearing from under the ice melting, raising many questions about their age. Again, I will ask the viewers to help me date them and discover who made them. Fourth and last question about Iceland. What are these stones? Where do they come from? Who made those holes and sign on them? You can find a lot of those strange tool marks all over. These in particular are located on the side of the road that goes from Reykjavik to Borgarnes, and this one is located in the old area of the capital. Well, I think that it's time to say goodbye to Iceland and move our research for answer to the neighboring areas of the North Atlantic Ocean, in search of the date of the appearance of the glaciers. Let's start, obviously, with the land that have the second largest ice mass on the planet, after the forbidden land of Antarctica. I call it forbidden due to the fact that we cannot go there, we cannot photograph it, and most important, we cannot look at it with the so-called satellite images that the honest governments of the world are offering to us. I think that not even the 10% is clear to investigate and study. Here you have some example of the quality of the images that are available to us of Antarctica. No comments are needed. I think that we can learn more about Antarctica from the misconcepted cartographer of the 16th and 17th century than from our day's expert geographer, as you can see on the screen. Especially in this particular map made by Boasche, lies many questions. How could they know how the lands look like under the ice? How could they know about Antarctica in any case? Fine, so Greenland. What a name is this one for a land covered in ice? I didn't even start yet, and I don't understand anything already. At school, I remember very well that the reason for this strange name was given to me due to the fact that when it was discovered in 982 by Enrico Ruffo, according to the works of Vincenzo Coronelli, an Italian cartographer that lived in the second half of the 17th century, it was summer, and the south point of Greenland was out of ice. This is the original explanation that I grew up with, but I have heard many other reasons, like that they have called Greenland to favorite the migration to that land, and so on. But let's start investigating this amazing natural formation called glaciers. On the screen at this moment, you can observe a Google map image of this enormous ice mass that covers a very large part of the less populated country in the world, according to Wikipedia, Greenland. And here we can appreciate a map of Greenland and the North Atlantic Ocean in a cartographical work made by the cartographer Philippe Gall in 1577. Examining it with a bit of logic, few questions comes along. What is that enormous land in the areas of our day's North Pole? We will examine it later on in this video. Second of all, what is that island called Friesland under the country of Iceland? But looking at Greenland, the question is, how could they know and map those rivers so inland under the ice? Where is the ice in any case? There are three structures depicted, but not in the south of the island, but in areas that in our days are covered with ice. Wikipedia will tell us that Philippe Gall was misconcepted or confused. Fine, so let's move to the next cartographer. His name was Cornelis van Witvliet, and the map that I will present you was published in 1611. Keeping in mind that most probably he was confused, let's investigate his work. Again we can see Friesland, depicted with accuracy, surrounded by plenty of smaller islands, and with at least 10 towns, settlements or villages. But we will talk later in this video about this phantom Friesland. For the moment, let's check out Greenland. Question: how could they map those mountain chains and rivers? I mean, in our days they are under hundreds, if not thousands of meters of ice. Like in the case of Iceland, I can continue forever giving you proof that a few hundred years ago, all of the respected cartographers were painting the areas of the North Atlantic Ocean out of ice. The next geographical work is from Petrus Bertius and Jodocus Ondius in the first half of the 1600s. Where are the glaciers? In this particular map, the mountains have even different shape, clearly proving that those areas were explored and not imagined. Please just look at the rivers. What is going on here? Vincenzo Coronelli is a very respected cartographer of the second half of the 1600s, and no glacier. He even depicted forest all over. And surprise, Friesland is there like in all of the maps for centuries. He also wrote that Greenland was discovered, as I already mentioned, in 982 by Enrico Ruffo. So there is no doubt that it's Greenland. And in the illustration at the bottom of the map, there is a description of Friesland, quoting, "It was discovered by Niccolò Zeno and Patrizio Veneto, and it was fabulous." Just look at this map. Mountains, rivers, and islands are out of ice. If we enlarge this particular work, we can appreciate again an enormous, well-known and mapped land in the areas of our day North Pole. But before becoming even more controversial talking about it and Friesland, I will add a question. I have always been a poor person. I have left behind the monetary system already decades ago, and I have never bought anything for myself. Everything that I have is a gift from life. Well, the only moment in life that I had a bit of money, I decided to invest it doing something for Africa. But let's make it short. I met a Dutch couple in Burkina Faso, and I've decided to follow them to Ghana and participate in their pure-hearted project. The woman died of malaria. I personally got malaria in Burkina Faso, and it's a miracle that I'm alive. I have seen with my own eyes hundreds of people waiting to die due to that staged sickness. And even more incredible, when I was hitchhiking in the desertic lands of the south of Morocco, I personally spoke with monsters that were bringing viruses to the sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not making it up. The person that was with me and left rivers of tears after that encounter is most probably watching this video. Please study malaria, AIDS and other sicknesses, and you will get to the same conclusion. They are staged. But I will dedicate an entire video about this topic, right after the end of the series of documentaries called Suomelle. Why am I talking about this? My question is, how is it possible that Greenland, Lapland and the north of Canada are the areas of the world with the most mosquito? I mean, what are they doing up there in the ice? Maybe because there was no ice up there in very recent time, or they come from openings into the inner earth, lighting the theory of an hollow earth, as the brilliant mind of our friend Peace on Earth has suggested.